Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Today we're going to create a centrepiece or a focal arrangement for an event focusing on sunflowers. So it's the height of summer, and what could represent summer more than the sunflower? Latin name Helianthus, Helios meaning sunshine. So yeah, they literally do make you think of summer, long summer happy days. So we're going to create a really happy and cheerful topiary tree with sunflowers today. So the flower variety of sunflower that I'm using is one called Sunrich Orange. It's this one. Don't be misled by it being called Sunrich Orange, because in my opinion it's the quintessential sunflower. It is that beautiful golden rich yellow. So that's Sunrich Orange, which we're using. I've got 10 stems of those. I've got myself a zinc bucket here, which I've actually filled with some wet foam. I've got some carpet moss. I have some raffia, natural raffia, and my usual florist workbox, which is wires, on this occasion anchor tape and my scissors. So as you can see, when your bunch of sunflowers arrive, you do normally get a bit of a mix of sizes. They tend to arrive relatively tight like this. So I probably would recommend that if you have a Saturday event, you could take delivery of them on the Wednesday. As you can imagine, they do take a little while to develop, and they actually transport so much better when they're in bud form. So we prefer to send them out to you when they're in bud, and then you can enjoy the development at your end. Okay, so this one's Sunrich Orange, as I say. They tend to be probably the most favourable sunflower in the respect that they're probably grown in higher quantities than other varieties. Right, so most importantly, before we carry on, for those of you who haven't met us before, I'm going to introduce myself and my colleague to you. So my name is Debbie. I tend to be this side of the camera doing the demonstrations and doing all the talking, or most of the talking. And my colleague Laura, who you won't see, if she has her way anyway, you won't see her, but you will occasionally hear her while we chat, and she's in the background.
Hi there.
You might find me occasionally my eyes flicking towards my left. That's because Laura's standing to my left. So I apologise for that. Okay, so our topiary tree, off we go. So as I was saying earlier, the sunflowers do arrive in sort of bud form, so it does take time to develop. You usually find if you purchase an A1 grade sunflower, pretty much all of the heads within that bunch are going to be of a similar size. If you buy a lower grade, so BA, it doesn't mean you're going to get poor quality, it just means you might get varying head sizes. Now that can actually work in your favour, because you can then cherry pick which ones you want to use for your bridal work and your arrangement work. I've got the entire bunch here, and to start off my topiary tree, I'm going to create almost a hand-tied bouquet first. So for those of you who are going to be producing sunflower hand-tied bouquets for weddings coming up soon, then this might be of use to you. I tend to use 7 or 5, but on this occasion I'm going to use 7 stems.
Would you find, Debbie, if you're creating a hand-tied bouquet that actually becomes quite heavy, would you have to almost, not to sound rude, base it on the bride's size as such to how heavy that would be?
Absolutely. And obviously, if you've got a very petite bride, size 0 maybe, sort of 4'5", 4'6" or something, you're not going to want to do anything that's too huge for her. So I would then possibly cherry pick the slightly smaller sunflowers and then perhaps keep it to either 5 or even 3 sunflowers. If you've got a slightly taller bride, perhaps sort of like 5 foot, a little bit taller, perhaps a slightly larger frame, then maybe you could use a few more stems. On this occasion, as I say, I'm going to use 7. And there is, to be fair though, there is a bit of a tendency towards having slightly bigger, bolder bridal bouquets now. So Just move those.
And have you got a 60 centimetre or an 80 centimetre there?
This is a 60.
So would that always produce slightly smaller head size?
Absolutely. So the larger or the longer the stem you buy, as a general rule of thumb, the larger the head that you get. So yeah, on this occasion it's a 60. And this is, as I say, this is a BA grade rather than an A1. So you can see within that bunch how differing the head sizes are. So just arranging that in my hand. Now I'm just going to tie that off with some of the raffia. Now you could then, if you wanted to, use that as a bridal bouquet. I probably would cut the stems down a little bit more than I have here. Otherwise you'll find your bride could well be tripping over. I'm just going to cover that tying point with some pot tape or anchor tape, just simply to give it that little bit of extra security. And there you have it. So there's no reason why you couldn't then cut those stems to as long as you wanted them for a bridal bouquet, and away you go. Just a simple bridal bouquet in sunflowers.
If you were to use that concept of, say, a bridal bouquet, if you wanted to add some other flowers, would you reduce that down to, say, 3 to 5, and then you've got those other flowers to work in with that? So, for instance, you can use like tanacetum and things like that, which looks really pretty.
Yeah, I certainly would. Also, very popular colour combinations together are blues and yellows, which are opposites in the colour wheel. So quite often we use delphiniums in with the sunflowers. As I say, they're opposites, so they do complement each other perfectly. So what you could do with those is you can pop a few little pieces in between. The delphinium at the moment, Ned's Diva, on the short stem, is quite a short bloom, so actually that works perfectly with bridal bouquets. So going back to our topiary tree, so I've taped it there as well, and there, just to give that extra security. I'm just going to bind my tying point at the top with some more raffia, just so that it's a bit more aesthetically pleasing, and also to cover up the mechanics. Cover up a multitude of sins, as they say.
Is there anything else that you could use instead of raffia?
Well, what lends itself really well to sunflowers is that slightly more rustic feel. So I would say hessian or something like that would work well.
Yeah.
Or even if you wanted to stick with the natural twine or burlap, something along those lines would work beautifully. As I say, sunflowers do tend to lend themselves to slightly more rustic events, maybe. So just tying this piece of raffia up. I've got it tangled. Here we go. Quite small and delicate. Don't want to take away from the sunflowers because they do take centre stage, most definitely. Let's just pull that undone. We'll do that again. Now you could use this as a table centre if you wanted to, because the stems on the actual arrangement itself are quite narrow, quite thin, so your guests would be able to see through it, as it were.
It's almost going back to what we were talking about last week with all about containers. It would work really well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. It would. I'm just going to...
It's almost got the thickness of like a candelabra or one of the taller vases, like a martini vase, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. You can see through it quite easily. The thing is, you need to go, as you said, quite rightly said, we touched on last week, you either need to make an arrangement for the centre of a table that's tall enough to see under or through, or low enough to see over, because you don't want to block conversation across the table. So there we go. And I'm just going to pop that right into the centre here. as long as my muscles are going to work. Ooh. There we go.
Go on, girl.
Have my workout for the day. Just arrange those back in position. Now that's really nice and sturdy in there. And just to add a nod, oops, got tangled up there, add a nod to the rest of the sunflowers. Just going to pop, spin this round. And another one. Slightly lower position. And as you can see, I've got, it's getting tangled up here. This Raffia's getting the better of me, Laura.
So what's the reason why you've got the sunflowers at the bottom?
Just to give visual balance. This is quite large. Sorry, this is quite large at the top here, and it does balance with the base, but also it looks a bit naked there if you've not got anything at all. So if you've got something that's quite high on a table, it's quite nice to have something at a lower position, so that people sitting around the table have something else to focus on rather than looking up high at the flowers. And so it just adds a little bit of visual balance to the arrangement. Hands are, one thing I should mention to you when working with sunflowers is you've probably noticed how much the bees absolutely love sunflowers. Well, there's a good reason for that. The nectar is very sticky. I can feel, you can see it sticking to the raffia here, so I've got the nectar on my hands.
So is it worth to work with sunflowers with gloves on, or just be more conscious of it?
I personally can't work very well with gloves. I find, especially if you've got something that's sticky, I find the gloves end up sticking to it and end up being more a problem than it solves. But if you're somebody that likes to work with gloves, then yeah, by all means, that will certainly help. And then finally, just to finish off, I'm just going to pop the moss.
So that really was that simple. It's so quick and easy.
Absolutely simple, very, very quick and easy.
So what type of moss are you using there, Debs?
This is just carpet moss, flat carpet moss. You could use any type. We get some lovely coloured mosses in as well now, the dyed reindeer mosses. So if you wanted to do something that's colour coordinated, you could. But no, I'm just using the natural carpet moss. You might know it as sheep moss as well. Looks a little bit like, I guess when you buy turf really, looks a bit like that. So, just having a look.
And with the wires there, would you pin the moss downward? Are you creating any hairpins, or can you simply just leave it?
I mean, for extra security, if you've got a delivery driver that tends to drive a little bit frantically, maybe, I shouldn't say that, but some of our drivers can be a bit speedy. If you want to secure it a bit, yeah, literally just make a hairpin with the wire and then just pin that into position. It's not absolutely essential on this occasion because the oasis is quite a little bit lower than the top of the vase, so it actually, I think I'll just move that, push that back in again. So it actually sits in the vase quite happily. So I'm just going to clean away the debris. That is the only thing with moss, I have to say. It's very messy. So if you're using it for a wedding, just be a little bit careful about white tablecloths.
Absolutely.
It doesn't look great on white tablecloths.
So with the arrangement that you've created there, it looks absolutely stunning, and it's such a visual table centre, isn't it? It works really nicely. But if sunflowers weren't in season, is there any particular variety that you could use to create something similar?
So you could do the same with carnations. Carnations have a really bad press, unfortunately. But if you made a hand-tied, almost like a sphere of carnations, you could do the same idea with that. Amaryllis during the winter months is beautiful. 3 stems of amaryllis to create that kind of design as well. Or if it's a romantic event that you're using, then there's no reason why you couldn't actually use roses. I have also done it with calla lilies in the past. White calla lilies in a black pot in the bottom, so that was for a ball. So they look very effective, the black and white. Yeah, so the options are endless, to be honest. You could create that same design with all manner of flowers. Gerbers would work as well. So, yeah.
You could replicate the yellow and the dark centres quite easily, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could. You could, certainly.
Perfect. Well, that was very quick.
It was very speedy today. So don't forget to keep watching watching our Facebook for all the videos that are coming up. But also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we've got loads of tips and hints, inspirational videos, how-to guides, information on varieties, conditioning, seasonal availability. So yeah, visit our YouTube channel and subscribe to that. And stay tuned actually for our flower of the month. Such a popular flower still, and that's Gypsophila. So we're going to be exploring in September the different varieties, all the different ideas that you can create with Gypsophila. As ever, so cost effective and still so popular. Most importantly of all, don't forget to like us, share us with your family and friends. Obviously put those comments below, and obviously keep those questions coming. And we look forward to welcoming you back again very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.